Hello, everyone. It's Donna Cravata, and we're back for another episode of The Real 50 Over 50. And this week we have Jenn Gulbrand with us. And Jenn is a powerhouse. She's a builder of heart centered communities and safe, supportive containers designed to hold space. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We have a technical difficulty here. I'll be right back.
It wouldn't be fun without one, right?
Okay, so we've got a few things going on here. One is that Facebook has decided that we are not going to be live streaming on Facebook. It does that every now and again. And the other thing is Jenn has this little dinging thing going on in the background. So we're just going to make that part of the show.
We
Anyway,
are.
I'm gonna,
It's just think of it
I'm
as
gonna go
the angels telling us that we're right on.
Exactly. We're not going to stress about it. The
No,
technical difficulties are going to happen, and we're just going to roll right with it. It's not taking us down. We're going to use them as enhancements.
there you go.
So, anyway, let me introduce you to Jenn. She's a builder of heart centered communities and safe, supportive containers designed to hold space for growing and healing. She founded SheBreathes Women's Collaborative and the WeBreathe Wellness Center to help raise the collective vibration and heal the human heart. She uses a combination of psychology, mindfulness, meditation, breathwork, embodiment practices, movement, created energy, and vibrational sound healing that sometimes comes in the form of chimes. And this is all intended to improve her clients' well-being and return them to a state of balance and alignment. Welcome, Jenn.
Well, thank you so much, Donna, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being part of this movement we're creating. I appreciate you
Sure.
bringing your voice to it. And as we go through this conversation, we are going to learn how many ways Jenn has brought all of that I just talked about into like various different ventures in a really short period of time. It's a little mind blowing. But we're going to start with what happened when you turned 50.
Oh my goodness. Where shall I begin? So I like to call myself a corporate dropout gone goddess. So I had spent, I guess, 35 years leading companies in the healthcare and life sciences space. The last 22 of those, I owned a pharmaceutical sales training company. And I always say to people that it fed my family, but it did not feed my soul. And like so
Mm.
many of us in of my generation, I just kept on keeping on, right? And doing the things that were quote unquote expected of me. And then I lost a really good friend to non-smoking lung cancer, and it sort of just jolted me into a new reality of what was I doing with my life. And I felt so out of alignment, and I was really being called to serve in a different way. And so that's when I decided to sort of take a big leap, my first leap of faith, which was to form the SheBreathes Balanced Women's Collaborative. And I did that in 2016. But I did it while I still had my other business. So that was interesting because I was kind of moonlighting on nights and
Yeah.
weekends as I created this beautiful women's collaborative. And but during those 3.5 years that I was managing both the business and the heart-centered community project, it became so clear to me where I needed to put my energy. So
And
that was
it,
how
it
it
had to
all
be
started. Yeah.
it had to be harder and harder to go back and do the work you didn't want to do anymore.
Yeah, it just became so much more clear to me. And I was doing all this training during that time around, my holistic healing, my Reiki certifications, and my all the things, from a completely different perspective, right? Here I am selling not selling, but doing training for pharmaceutical companies during the day. And at night and weekends, I was doing Reiki and sound
Mhm.
healing and all the things. But it was really a great experience. I wouldn't change any of it. It just made things much more clear to me what was and what was not in alignment for me. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a beautiful journey for sure.
And it funded your education.
Well, you could say that, yeah. So I actually let that company go at the end of 2019. This is kind of an interesting story. So I was like all ready to hit the ground and take another leap of faith. So I sold my company. My business partner retired. We got all of our employees in a really good situation. And now it's January of 2020, right? So I decided I need more space, and I want to take all these beautiful things that I'm doing for women and expand it to a wider audience. So I signed the lease for this beautiful space on March 1st of 2020 to open the WeBreathe Wellness Center, so I could have an inclusive center for everyone, right? He, she, they, them, us, we. And literally, we all know what happened 12 days later. So that was fun.
That's crazy.
But all part of the journey, right? All part of the journey.
All part of the journey. All part of the journey. So, like, now this has grown into, let's talk about how many different branches this has grown into.
Well, I call them gardens.
Gardens?
So I have gardens. I have different gardens to water. That's what I say, because it keeps me in a high vibe space. So I have the Women's Collaborative, those are the women who have been with me since 2016 and have helped me to create this really beautiful, nurturing space and community for women to lift each other up, both personally and professionally. It's not just business focused. And those are the women who have different benefits of membership. There's different memberships. And those are the people who offer content here, programs, resources, services. And then the physical space is the WeBreathe Wellness Center. And that's what you see behind me. That's a full service wellness center with a spa, a cafe, co-working. We do all kinds of community service projects here, along with classes and workshops. And then let's see. So you asked me what happened when I turned 50. Should I tell you what happened when I turned 60?
Sure.
So when I turned 60, which was last March, I decided I was about to launch I call it my Jennaissance. So I had all these things I wanted to accomplish. So I wanted to write a book, and I did that. And I wanted to start a nonprofit, and I did that. And then I got such an incredible response to my book that then I encouraged 22 other women to tell their stories. And I worked with a number of my members to curate this beautiful anthology of stories. So yeah, and I still have a couple months left to check the other things off my list. But before I turn 61, am I allowed on this show?
Yes, this is just after 50. We have women all the way up to 85 so far. So you're in for the long haul.
That's right. I got some
decades to go. You've got at least 4 pivots and like redesigns of your business.
I know, it's great. They're all really interwoven though, Donna, right? Like they're all really based on this sort of heart-centered mission of forming community and support and opportunity for people to really thrive. And they're all, even though they're sort of, come at it from a different perspective, they're all really about this mission that I have of deepening our connections with one another as human beings. And the book itself was, for me, very much a healing experience. Like I basically wrote my story, and I shared aspects of my life that very few people knew, as a way to kind of process and heal from trauma. And then I talked about how what I learned from those experiences, how those things shaped me, and the blocks that they maybe had presented to me during my lifetime, and then how I kind of worked through those and unraveled those for healing. And that process was it was a life-changing experience for me. And it made me realize how important it was for me to speak this message to other women, particularly to say, you don't have to hide behind these sort of inhibitions, these fears of not belonging or not being enough, because this is what we're taught to do, right? And
Yes,
so,
yes.
but when you get it all out there and you're like, hey, this is who I am and this is what I've been through. But this is what I'm doing now to design the life that I desire. It's a very liberating experience. And that's what I learned in writing the book. And it was a big deal. Like, I put some stuff out there, but then to encourage other women to do the same, it just became clear to me that we need to amplify our voices, just like this program. Like, we need to feel comfortable speaking our truth and sharing our vulnerable experiences with one another, because we connect in just a different way, right? And we heal one another when we do that, because
Yeah.
everything, we're not alone. We realize that we have these shared experiences. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think it just perpetuates a really
It, it,
positive
it,
healing cycle.
it does. And one of the things that's really come forward from doing this series of interviews, and you're the 34th interview,
I love that number.
um, is that we're sharing the untold stories.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
sharing the stories that people didn't tell us, that people that are younger than us or different than us, or, or future generations, like, they need to know.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is with the age group that we're in. I'll be 60 in May,
Yeah.
so we're just about the
You're
same
catching
age.
up to me.
I'm catching up. Um, but one of the things that, I feel a real responsibility towards is that, we were raised in a different time.
Oh,
And
yes.
everything is moving so fast now, and there's a whole lot of stuff we don't need to bring forward with us.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there are things that we are literally the holder of, and we need to pass that along. We need to share that and share these, memories, these experiences, these stories. And, it bridges a gap between what was and what will be.
It does.
And
So much.
that's why I just feel this is all so important to share these stories. And
Yeah.
is there anything that you shared in the book that you might wanna share here?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things in my book. I blew a lot of people away. Well, so I guess the main story is I was a product of a extramarital affair back
Mm,
in the 60s, and two people who had their own families and had a very long love affair. But then I came along, and it just hurt a lot of people, right? And so I was basically abandoned in the first few moments that I took my breaths. In that my birth mother just could not, she just couldn't deal with it, with her own trauma. And
mhm,
so I was there, right, as an infant baby, taking my first breaths, completely alone and abandoned. Now, the story got a lot better, right? Because I was adopted, I had a beautiful family and a beautiful life. But what happens to us as humans when we experience a traumatic event like that is that we create a story in our subconscious about what who we are and what that all means. And so for me, that story of abandonment became kind of wrapped into my DNA around
mhm,
not being good enough, feelings of lack of self-worth, right? Feelings of just not being wanted enough to be kept, which is certainly in my intellectual mind, I know that was not the case. But my
yes.
subconscious mind created a story. And so
Mhm,
I know that I carried that story with me for throughout most of my adult life until I was able to unravel it and rewrite the script.
yeah,
And this is what happens to us. We form these limiting beliefs in our subconscious mind between the ages of 0 and 7, and those we carry those with us, those wounds, the things that happen to us, the experiences that we've had, things that people have said to us, and we don't even know it. It's sort of like the subconscious mind is driving the car, right? And it forms blocks and belief systems that hold us back. And
yeah,
so I write a lot about how we all experience trauma. We all experience painful life events. So we have a choice to make. We can either let them cripple us and define us, or we can unravel it and rewrite it. And that's what the book is about. Not only the things that I went through, but how I healed from them, and then what I learned from that process. Because again, I think there's so much shame. We hide behind shame and not feeling good enough and not belonging. And that isn't the way we want to live, right?
No.
Yeah,
And, we just, what I've, know personally and through these stories and interviews is that you need to reach a certain level of like life experience before you can actually
indeed.
work through this stuff. I mean, I have a similar story. My father had two families going at the same time, and my middle name was my father's girlfriend's name.
Nice, huh?
And he
Yeah,
basically left when I was born, came
right.
back because I had a younger brother. But, still, I mean, I wasn't wanted. Like,
It
I was just a reminder that, like, my father left when I was born, you know?
right.
So, that was an enormous part of who I was, and I didn't heal that until just the last couple of years.
And it's amazing, isn't it? And
And
then
it
if you
still
think
comes back.
back, right? If you think back to like behaviors that you had growing up as as
Mhm.
a teenager, as a young woman, right?
Oh my
I
god,
mean,
daddy issues out the wazoo.
all the things that I'm sure you and other stories I write about Me Too before I even knew what Me Too was, right?
Yeah.
The sexual harassment, rape
Well,
in
it was a given. It was just a given.
we didn't know any
it
better.
was like, "Oh, it's Tuesday.
We
It's
looked like
sexual
cats,
harassment
right? We
Tuesday."
didn't know that we could speak up and use our voices.
No, and we didn't have resources like the internet
Yeah.
to realize that we weren't alone. Like, I had encyclopedias that were 10 years old. This was my reference point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think the more, and I guess the other point I'd love to make here is that what happens is if we don't heal this stuff ourselves, we just pass
Pass
down
it
the
along.
unresolved
Yeah,
trauma to our children
yes,
and they to their children. And
yes.
that's what we want to do. We want to break those patterns of suffering. I mean, I have conversations with my 22-year-old daughter now all the time about, look, I did this without meaning to. You don't need to be that way. Break that pattern.
Oh,
And so it's like that awareness is it's power, right? To
yeah,
be able to move through it in that way, to feel your pain. I always say you got to feel it to heal it,
yeah.
and then be like, whoa, I feel so much lighter and freer and able to move forward. So that's a
Well,
really big part of this whole journey
yeah.
of, of letting go and lightening up a bit.
Yeah, and the thing is you have to go through it. There is no magic bullet, there's no snap your fingers and it's
Yeah,
done.
it's
There's
a,
no poof. You have to go through it. It's hard work, and you should not go through it alone.
no, no. And
There's help.
we have enough isolation and stuff
Yeah,
going on.
there's help, and the
Yeah,
thing is once you go through it, because there's more, there's always another layer and another layer and another layer, and then you start digging back a couple of lifetimes ago, because those past
I was gonna
generations.
say all that ancestral stuff. Oh, right, I know.
And, but the
Crazy.
thing is, like, once you get through it the first time
Yeah,
and you were able to wipe off the gunk and you lived through it, it's like, "Okay, if I did that,
yes,
I could do great grandmas," you know?
I know, right? I know, it's really good. And I think, the more each generation, right, we learn more and we learn more
Yeah,
and we just do better. And and that's, if we do nothing else in this lifetime, but learn and grow and evolve and help our children to do the same.
yeah,
That's pretty big. That's pretty big stuff.
that's pretty big stuff. I have a 21-year-old son, and we've done that too.
Yeah, it's really important.
He's not carrying the stuff that I carried.
Good.
I always
Beautiful.
like to say that, I carried that baggage in my mother's light blue Samsonite with no wheels.
Right? Right? I can hear you dragging it around on the ground. No, I mean, we laugh, but this is true. Like,
It is all true.
talk about the rocks in my backpack. Like, how many more rocks can I
Yeah,
carry? Yeah,
and you don't have to carry them, they're not yours to
just
carry.
dump them out. Dump them out
Yeah,
one at a time.
and yeah, it's so amazing when you can start to let these things go, and then what happens is you start to see the possibilities and the opportunities, and they are literally all around us.
They
They're
are.
there. They're
Barely.
just there,
Yeah. It's
but you can't see them when you got the big boulders in your backpack.
it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Oh, here we have Beth. Beth is here. Love Beth,
I
and
know
she's
Beth. Hi, Beth.
yeah, and, she's saying that it's
Yep.
crucial to break those generational cycles.
So
Absolutely.
speaking of Beth, she was she worked with me very closely on the Soul Stories anthology that I was just mentioning. And
Mhm.
it was a beautiful project and a collaboration that we worked on together. She was not only an author but our book editor. So
Oh,
I'm very grateful to Beth for being a part of that legacy that we were able to put out this last, I guess, gosh, September. Yeah.
oh, congratulations. That's a editing on an anthology is it's a big job.
Yeah, it was, but we were both very grateful to be a part of it. Those women were amazing and their
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. And okay, so let's see what else we can talk about here today. This is what I started to ask you before, and we went off on a tangent.
Well,
So,
I tend to do that. Sorry.
um, what led you to focus on the heart? I mean, you talk about being heart centered in your work, but there's more to it than that
There,
because
there
so
is.
much of this healing is
Mm.
about having a wounded heart.
Yes. So this is what I've learned over the course of the last couple of years in my studying. So we as a society, we focus very much on our beautiful brains, right? We have beautiful brains, and our brains have so many capabilities. They help us to think and strategize and problem solve, right? We go to therapy so that we can talk through these things that we've experienced in our life. But what I've learned is that our body, I'm sure you've heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Our
Yes.
bodies hold the records of all of those things that happen to us. So if we're only cutting ourselves off and living from the head up and the neck up, we're not healing. We're just thinking it through or processing it. What you really need to do is you need to feel the trauma and the wounds in your physical and energetic bodies so that you can release it. So that's called somatics. I went through a somatics therapy program to incorporate
Mhm.
that into my coaching a few years ago, because I started to realize we're living from our necks up. We got to drop from our brains into our hearts and into our bodies and really feel what needs to be experienced, felt, released, and healed. And so that was a big aha for me, because we're our culture is all about the brain,
Yeah.
which is just, it's only half of it's I well, in my opinion,
It's a
it's
third.
20%. 20% of the work happens in your brain, and 80% happens in your healing your body, the wounds, the energetic wounds, the physical wounds. Yeah. So
And the
that's
stuff you don't
a
even
different way of
remember.
thinking. Yeah, exactly. But it's recorded
It's
in there, and
it's
it leads to,
recorded.
yeah, and it leads to dis-ease, right? That's what disease is.
Mhm.
We're not in alignment. We're not healed in our bodies.
No.
And so,
No, I'm living proof of that.
yeah,
I
I
was
mean, we
diagnosed with
are.
AFib 4.5 years ago,
Wow.
and, my initial reaction as soon as like, first it was like, "I don't wanna take any medication." Like, "I don't give me surgery, but I don't wanna take any medication." But
Sure.
once I got past that, my initial reaction was that I healed myself as much as I possibly could, and I needed surgical intervention for the rest.
Oh,
I didn't
I
realize
mean,
I needed 3 surgical interventions.
yeah. I mean, we thank goodness we have the healthcare systems that we have for people to get the help that they need. But I guess my point, and I'm not discounting that. I mean, I was in that field for many, many years. I just feel like we are very quick to sort of reach for a pill or something to sort of address a symptom, when in reality so much of it is like, what's really
Yeah.
causing that? Where is the disease or dis-ease coming from in
Mhm.
the system? And if we can get to that, the root cause of that, as we say, and start to work on healing that trauma, that experience, it just makes the healing process, it just facilitates it, right?
It does, it
Yeah.
does, and, I was able to take healing so far,
Right. Oh,
and
yes.
then I had the first procedure done, and it didn't fix it, and I actually had complications,
Mm,
and then I had the second procedure done, and it worked for a while, and then it didn't, and then I just had the third one done in September.
yeah.
And they think they finally got it, but the second procedure I had done, the doctor, 'cause I don't have a typical case, the doctor said that he redesigned the landscape of my heart, and my
Wow.
response was good, it needed it,
Yeah. See?
and
So you are involved in that healing, along
yeah.
with your
Oh, no, I've
physicians.
been doing it for years, I've
Yeah.
been doing it for years, but I got to the point where I think that it was more like, I think it was so my heart was so broken. that it was not going to just heal with one methodology.
Oh, of course. Well, and think about it, we're multidimensional beings, right? We can't
Yeah.
just do one thing or be one thing or you know, resort to one thing. We really, I think the fact that we have all of these different ways, modalities, this a combination of those are usually the right way to go, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and it's amazing because the heart really does hold so much.
It does. It does.
It's very smart.
It is very smart. Oh, we have a program here. So I didn't mention that we have this nonprofit as well. And if I can just briefly mention that, and then because I want to
Yes,
tie it to what you just said. So I
yes.
realized, 6 months ago that we do really beautiful work here. We provide all this wellness, these programs, these training, these classes, these services to people who can access it. But that there's a whole world of people out there who are experiencing a very serious mental health crisis, particularly our emerging adults, I like to call them, our young people who are like between high school and college and just out of college age. And we're seeing it, right? We're seeing the depression, the anxiety, the suicide rates increasing. We're seeing these young people self-medicating and just feeling hopeless, right? And so I wanted to do something about the people who couldn't just walk into a wellness center or find a therapist. So that's why we formed the nonprofit, the WeBreathe Wellbeing Soul Sanctuary, with this intention of educating and providing services to everyone, like beyond our walls. And it's a big endeavor. It's going to take us years to sort of get to the point where we want to be. But the point is that we have the people here and the tools and the knowledge to help. And so I didn't feel like we had a choice. Like we had to get out there and start to do something. And so as part of that process, we're doing a lot of peer groups. Like we're bringing in high schoolers, we're bringing in college students, we're bringing in people who are out of college to try to listen and learn from them. Like what have they been experiencing through COVID and coming out of that? What do they need, right? So we can design programming specific to that population, in addition to the general public that we serve now. And the reason I mention that is because one of our programs is happening this Saturday. It's called the Compassion Project, and it's all about brain-heart coherence, compassion, the science behind what happens when we, in our brains and in our bodies, when we're kind, when we're compassionate, when we show those kinds of expressions to one another, and when we connect in a more meaningful way. So, I love that we're able to reach outside of our own walls and bring people in to help us, just offer this programming and help address this very serious problem that we have. I don't know anyone who hasn't been impacted in some way, directly or indirectly, by mental health in the last 3.5 years, 4 years. Right.
And you think of our kids who are 21, 22 years old. They were born right into 9/11.
Yeah.
Or conceived during 9/11. And
metal
I have
detectors in schools and
they were raised with, how to hide under your desk because somebody's going to shoot you.
Yep.
And then, COVID. My son was class of 2020. His graduation was, in the parking lot of a cut-rate mall.
Well, mine was on Zoom, so not mine, my daughter's. I know.
Daughters, yeah. And that impacts them. His first semester at school, he was, he was just in a room with somebody he didn't know.
Very
Very hard. A question: Where is your center located?
Oh, so the WeBreathe Wellness Center is in Walpole, Massachusetts. We're right on the commuter rail line, and we're probably like halfway between Boston and Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah. And then the WeBreathe Wellbeing Soul Sanctuary, which is a nonprofit, does not have a home yet. That is my intention, is to raise funding and support to create and curate our own property somewhere in natural surroundings where we can bring people for 3, 4, 5 days at a time for immersive healing experiences surrounded by nature. So I've got the whole thing visioned in my head.
So you're doing those the nonprofit sessions are being done virtually now?
Well, so no, for now, we're actually using this center for some of the live programming, but they're also offered virtually. Like the one on Saturday, you can come virtually because we want to reach beyond our own walls. But yeah, so the intention is for now, we're going to be doing the programming here. We might, we're collaborating with, I've already made connections with maybe 4 other nonprofits that have aligned missions.
Mm,
So we're collaborating with them and their facilities. The more people we can reach, the better,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we want people to feel like that there's support out there for them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
there's such
amazing.
a lack of resources right now.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're doing great
important
work.
work.
I cannot believe we're already at
I
30
know.
minutes.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have I have one last question for you.
Yes. Yes.
What's the one thing you want everybody to know from all of the changes you've gone through in your life and the
Hmm.
healing and the ups and the downs and the challenges and what you've worked, taken others through? What is like the one thing that really makes the biggest impact?
I think I want people to know that they are not alone and that they're not broken, and that there's always going to be a support system for them, that they do belong. They need to just find their tribe, find their people, find the group of people that get them, and accept them and open up their hearts to them, because we're not here to be experiencing this life alone. We're here to be, we're all about connectedness. That's how
Yes.
we're designed. And so I don't want people to be lonely and feel isolated. I want them to seek support systems, come to a wellness center, find a group, embrace, allow yourself to be embraced by people who have your back. I
Mhm.
guess that would be my message, because we're all out there and we're all struggling. Nobody, I don't care what you see on social media. Everyone has stuff in their life. Nobody has a perfect life, no matter what they put out there on
Yeah.
Instagram. And I think that that's one of the challenges with social media, right? It has many benefits. It also, I think, makes people feel alone, isolated, and divided. And so I think that we can do a better job of building communities, fostering communities, and making everyone feel welcome.
Yeah, I love that.
That's
I really do believe that the way forward is together.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Takes a
so
village, Donna.
it takes a village. I've always said that as a single parent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
all of this amazing work that you have been doing. People can head on over because she has so many different things she's doing. The easiest way to find all of the things she's doing is to go either to her Instagram account or her link tree, which has links to all of the beautiful work that she's doing in the world. And thank you for sharing your story. If you're watching this on the replay, please leave questions or comments or ideas and tag us. We'll come back. And it's been a pleasure to share your story and to let everybody know what you're up to because it's all good stuff.
And I want to thank you, Donna, for the work that you're doing, because again, this is what we're doing, right? We're amplifying voices and we're sharing our stories. And I appreciate you so much for the work you're doing and for involving me in it. So thank you for that.
No, it is my pleasure. And we will actually be back tomorrow,
Yeah.
Thursday, the 16th, with a panel on visibility.
Ooh,
And
wonderful.
we will be having one panel every month. And I'm sure you'll see Jen on one of those panels coming up
I
soon.
would love that.
But I'm very excited about this because we're going to be speaking about a specific topic and getting perspectives from people from all walks of life. And I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of people. And it's going to be interesting to see how the stories intersect over one topic.
I
So
love
I'm
it.
excited about that. So join us tomorrow and every Wednesday at noon Eastern Time. We are here with another interview and we are booked solid into August.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Even holidays, I'm doing them on holidays. I'm doing them on my birthday. My 60th birthday is an interview.
That's wonderful. Well, happy birthday.
It's not for a while.
Let me know what your Renaissance looks like.
I'm
I guess we
still
would
working
call
on it.
it Renaissance, right? You're done.
Renaissance.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we are out of here.
Thanks
Thanks,
so much.
Jen,
Have
and
a beautiful
everybody connect
afternoon.
with Jen.
Thank you.
Bye.